Kia ora everyone, and
Kia
welcome
ora.
back to part 2 of our Cronenberg deep dive analysis, trivia, filmography, extravaganza.
We're gonna start here with Scanners.
Yes. So we're moving to a new phase of his career.
This features Patrick McGoohan, who people might know of as number 9 from the Prisoner, which is a very sort of culty British TV series. It's almost like a thriller set in a village where he sort of wakes up one day and can't escape the village. I am not a number, I am a free man, is the saying. He sort of yells it. So he's in this, and he sort of plays a villain, or is he a villain? That's sort of the question.
He's in a lot of good movies, and he has these really like intense facial expressions, like when he's trying to like explode people's brains. He's all like,
No, it's not him. I'm talking about the guy with the beard. Patrick McGoohan. It must have been.
He looks so different with the beard.
Yeah. You're thinking of Michael Ironside.
Michael Ironside. Love me some Ironside. Yeah, he's the one who's with his face when he's like trying to use his brain.
He plays a character named Daryl Revick. I love that name, Revick. Again, Cronenberg has these great names for people, and he's always had these great names for people for a great imagination. But yeah, Patrick McGoohan is kind of like the head of the Scanners, and he takes this sort of homeless guy under his wing, played by Stephen Lack, who was also in Dead Ringers as that sculptor.
He's a little tiny bit.
Very small cameo. And he plays a character named Cameron Vale. Again, Vale, I love that name. And Stephen Lack, actually, interestingly enough, now he's in real life is a successful painter, which is funny that he ended up. That's probably why Cronenberg got him to play an artist, because he was probably, a painter at that stage.
Wow, that's so cool.
As well. And Jennifer O'Neill is also in the film, but Cronenberg has said that this film is his most frustrating experience directing, for a few reasons. One was the script wasn't up to par. He wasn't happy with it when they started shooting, so he had to rewrite it as they were shooting, which kind of puts him under the gun and would have been quite stressful. But add to that, he had lots of issues with Patrick McGoohan and Jennifer O'Neill, who both were kind of divas on set, and they had a very antagonistic relationship.
That's not what Cronenberg's all about, because he's a sort of director that's very hands-off. He doesn't rehearse, he expects people to come and know their lines, and then he trusts the actor, because that's their profession, to just do it. And I think some actors find that very hard to get around. But I can't imagine being a diva for Cronenberg, because he demands so little of his actors.
Well, he wasn't a big director at this stage, so they probably... they were probably like, who's this young guy bossing us around? But he doesn't boss people around. I don't know. I don't really know what the vibe was on set. But
what a shame. Well, you work with them again, that's for sure.
They probably weren't used to doing sort of, low budget films or something. And this one would have been...
They shouldn't have been in it.
Exactly. They shouldn't have. Do you want to talk about the iconic head scene?
Now this one's gone down in like history as being like one of the most... People just freaked out. They couldn't deal with it. There's this very realistic, absolutely fantastic moment when the psychonetic powers of two people are kind of battling it out until one of their head explodes. And it looks so cool. And that was like a huge like exclamation point in like cinematic history. Yep. Nothing horror like that I've ever seen. Horror history. Well, even cinematic though. It's like one of those moments that everyone knows about.
It's what was remembered for a long time in interviews. People would sort of talk about that moment. It's apparently Michael Ironside said that they got that effect using chicken livers and dog food.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this looks very...
It does.
It's very visceral, meaty. Very meaty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that sort of shocking moment sort of woke the world up to, oh, who's this Cronenberg guy? And funnily enough, he was actually offered the chance to do a TV series about Scanners. But the producers were like, well, we can't have the head exploding in a movie. But they said a remake that he didn't condone, thank goodness for that.
Yeah, because it was going to be directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed Saw Part 4 and 5 or something.
So I'm glad that film doesn't exist.
Yeah, he said, I'm not going to make it without Cronenberg's blessing, and he didn't get
He did not get the blessing, thank goodness for that, because I can't even imagine. But yeah, so these people were like, you can do a TV show based on scanners. It's like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And they're like, well, we can't have any head exploding. And he's like, no, but that's kind of the whole thing, you know. And then they're like, oh yeah, and you can't have this and this and this and this and this. And Cronenberg's like, what? And then they're like, oh no, it's boring. And he's like, well, yeah, of course it is. So it never turned into a series, and I'm quite glad, because it would have been like this really like watered down version.
Speaking of which, they're currently just about to, well, very soon releasing Dead Ringers TV series,
which we are really not
skeptical about.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna definitely watch it.
I'm gonna watch it, and I like the fact that it's, you know, female twins, you know, and it's going to be an incredibly demanding role for the actress that plays it, but she's very good. But I don't know. I just don't know. It's Rose, what's her name?
What was she in?
I can't even remember right now. Okay. My mind's gone totally blank.
Oh well, look it up.
I see her face in my head, and I can remember things about her, and she is very, very good. Yeah, she's definitely got chops, but I just don't know how that's going to work.
One thing that going through these films that'll come up is that there are a lot of literary references in Cronenberg, which I love. I mean, I'm a huge book reader, and in Scanners, I think the idea of the scanner was based on Burroughs. He had these psychic characters called senders. Ah,
yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think it was from Naked Lunch, actually.
Well, he obviously adores Burroughs because he did Naked Lunch, so yeah, that makes sense. I think Senders are in Naked Lunch. It's hard to remember. Cities of the Red Night is just like really crazy as well, man. I love that book. So weird.
So, what would you give Scanners? What did we give The Brood?
Give it like a 5 point.
That's the only reason I wanted to rate it lower, because my ratings are suddenly going to go way up.
Yeah, exactly.
For our next film.
Well, I mean, I loved, is it Ironside?
Yeah.
I loved his performance the most.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed him. I thought it was fantastic, and I think it's an important film in a lot of ways, but still, yeah, it's still got that 70s look. Not my favourite. So, I don't know, like a 3 out of 5 maybe?
Yeah, okay, I'd probably give it the same as The Brood, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more, but yeah.
It's tricky, eh?
Yeah.
It's tricky.
So I'd give it like a 6 out of 10 or something.
Yes. Yeah.
And next is possibly my favourite Cronenberg, or one of a couple, Videodrome. I love it so very much. I feel like he's arrived fully formed with this film.
It is so gorgeous. Just such a huge step up from anything he'd done before. It just looks like eternally gorgeous. It's it's very hard to make words for how wonderful that film is.
The look is a lot more beautiful than Scanners. Has a very sort of orangey grey sort of 70s look, which I'm not into very much. Yeah,
it always helps drag down the ratings for me usually. Yeah.
But there's something almost mystical about Videodrome for me. I've seen it so many times. I've literally seen it more than 70 or 80 times, and every time I see it, it just gets better and better and better, which is why I keep watching it. So yeah, I love it very much. It's got a really great central performance by James Woods, who's these days is like I think back then he was probably kind of liberal, but now he's a raging Republican, and he does all these Twitter rants as well. Yeah, I mean he's worse than a dick. Amber Tamblyn, who's a great actor, who was in The Ring American remake and The Grudge 2 American remake. She has said that he tried to pick her up and take her to a party. He was sort of sleazing onto her when she was 16. So which is
not surprised actually.
Not good.
He's great in this film though. You know, it's the best thing he's ever done and will ever do. And he was really great for the role, and he is kind of a sleazy character though. So
he works at what's it called? I should know. Civic TV.
Civic TV.
Yeah.
And they sort of like get.
Yeah, I've got a Civic TV mask actually.
That's right, the mask.
But yeah, it's like a late night TV show.
And they sort of like find these really outrageous shows from all around the world, and
sort of soft porn,
like
but
almost
they're expanding
type stuff.
And Videodrome is actually the name of this thing that he becomes obsessed with that is shown to him. That's like a sort of a snuff TV.
Snuff TV, yeah, very BDSM heavy, very surreal. Is it real? Is it not?
Yeah. And
yeah, he becomes completely obsessed with it, and it's just got this wonderful interplay between people and physically become interact with televisions and phones and things being put, videotapes being put inside the body. Like the effects in this are just so cool, and they're very realistic and unsettling but beautiful and so wildly creative and inventive. I've still like never really seen anything like it, and even though it's like very strange and extreme, it just all works. It's like a perfect film. Everything works, everything's great. It just, the way it builds, the way it flows, it's just such a coherent film. It's just perfect. You couldn't, there's like nothing in there that could be done any better. It's
interesting because I mean a big part of the reason I love his films is Carol Spear and Howard Shore. Howard Shore was definitely involved in this, but and Peter Suschitzky, he hadn't actually shot this film with him, and Carol Spear wasn't yet on board, so it's crazy that it was so fully formed, I reckon.
The production designer did a really good job with that one. It looks very cool. Very cool. This is like this very dark apartment that Nick absolutely adores, and I was like, this is not love.
I'd love to live something like that.
I couldn't quite go that far.
Very nocturnal. We both are.
We both are, but I still like need windows and stuff, and I can't have the walls all black. It's not okay.
I love it.
But yeah, I did love it.
Debbie Harry is in this film as well. She had, of course, you know her from Blondie. People quite often who don't really know much about her think that she is Blondie, but it's actually a band that she was in.
Just because she's blonde.
And she actually isn't blonde in this movie, though.
No.
It's like it's one of the only times that she wasn't.
Apparently, her acting isn't great, but it kind of works with the character. Apparently, though, it was like she's the one actor that Cronenberg had to really work with, because he thought, oh, you're a performer, you should be able to perform, but she really couldn't. She's extremely, I think she quite overacted monotone. Or like
wooden.
But I think the woodenness.
Yeah, she overacted.
Apparently she overacted. So the woodenness is better than overacting, I would think, because she's quite a lot of his women have this kind of like coldness about them, which is really quite fascinating.
Yeah, I think of Deborah Kara-Unger in Crash. I mean, that's very...
Yes, there's this cold, almost cruel nature. This sort of... David Lynch has a few characters like that too, with these sort of you want me, but you can't have me kind of vibe. Yeah. And very seductive yet
Judy Davis in Naked Lunch. I think she was actually quite a cruel, cold person in real life, according to what I've read about her. But yeah, Debbie Harry had actually acted in a film called Union City, which was pretty good actually. It's I've forgotten the director's name, but he likes to say that he was Lynchian before Lynch, although it was like 1981 or something, so Lynch had done Eraserhead. So I mean, I think he meant more like Twin Peaks Lynch. But it's worth seeing. It's on YouTube, so you should have a look at Union City, and it's even got Everett McGill, who was in Twin Peaks, with acting with Deborah Harry.
Cool.
It's pretty cool film, actually.
She's quite an interesting woman. I love that she is a part of the Cronenberg universe, and that she is a part of Videodrome, because Drome, she really, I can't imagine it without her.
I do like Blondie a lot too. I used to play drums in a band called the Brunettes, who were very influenced by Blondie. Anyway, there's a character named Brian Oblivion in the film, who is actually based on Marshall McLuhan, who was Cronenberg's old lecturer, and who sort of had some ideas about TV and media that were very important to Cronenberg and his films as well. So that was a big influence there. And Barry Convex, who's another, great names again, Brian Oblivion and Barry Convex. He was based on the televangelist Jim Bakker.
Oh wow, that's great.
So he sort of bases it on people that he is interested in real life. Warhol actually called Videodrome a Clockwork Orange for the 80s. I don't know if I don't agree.
Strange.
It's a strange comparison, but it's interesting comparison.
Because they're both very provocative.
And I know you won't like this, but this film was a huge box office failure, which is quite kind of mirrored but with Crimes of the Future, which haven't called Crimes of the Future a box office failure, but they've said that it's soft at the box office, mainly because it was released, you know, online as well. So
I'm still gonna go see it and give them my monies.
yeah, same. I can't wait to see it on a big screen.
I'll take everybody I know.
Yeah.
I've got to see this. The only film I've seen on the big screen was Existence, which totally blew my little 19-year-old brain. And just, whoa, you know, I felt like, what is reality? And Videodrome is quite similar. And like, what is reality? Yeah. It's all pretty mixed up and weird.
I've seen every one of his films since Crash at the movies. So when I saw Crash, when it came out, I was with 3 other people, and they hated the film. They were passionate about hating the film. Like, I remember the car ride. I still remember the car ride from the movie theater, and they were just like barking at each other in anger about this film. And I just was like not even thinking about them really, because I just loved it so much. It was like the complete opposite to them. And I'd seen Naked Lunch on video when I was like 12 or something, when it came out.
You should not have seen that at 12. That
when it came
really
out of the video store. So that was my first.
That's a
Cronenberg
very
film.
sexual. It's got some of the most extreme scenes.
I had a kind of relationship with the my local video guy who I got a lot of horror films out from there, and he was happy to kind of he in fact encouraged it, and would, if he had something new, interesting, and that he thought I might like, he kind of, you know, said, here, you should see this. And Naked Lunch.
Enabler horror for young children, corrupting minds. Look how badly we've turned out.
Naked Lunch, Eraserhead, Hellraiser, films like that.
Wow.
So he was a good influence.
I did have a relationship with one video store where, like, when I was about 15, I could get out R18 movies. But yeah, not that young. I wouldn't have even thought about that. I was still scared of scary movies for quite a long time. Yeah, anything frightening or the music was scary. I'd be like, yeah, I can't handle it. Yeah.
So this film, I'm definitely giving a 5 out of 5.
Oh yeah, it's just
10 out of 10 film.
We love it.
Yep.
It's extraordinary. And
I'll let Hannah talk about The Dead Zone, as it's not really one I particularly like.
Yeah,
apart from
Videodrome gets 10 out of 10 hearts. Dead Zone, I really like the idea of this, especially in the Trump era. It's all about what would happen if the wrong person got into the White House and decided to blow up the world because he's a crazy motherfucker. And then Trump came along and I was like, this has never been more relevant.
David Cronenberg is a very prophetic director. He downplays this and he says, no, I don't think I am, but he actually is. I mean, even think of Crimes of the Future with the plastic eating thing, which is now actually coming in. Yeah,
he loves Asimov. He loves Philip K. Dick, absolutely, but he really loves Asimov, who I'm also a huge fan of. Asimov was an actual scientist. So that's why his sci-fi is so interesting.
Cronenberg was going to be
He did a year of science, but then he sort of found his way into film. But he was studying cellular biology, which turns out is one of the most interesting fields and one of the most exciting ones to this day. So and I think that was because Asimov was a scientist and a writer. I really love hard sci-fi. So I can accept other kinds of sci-fi as pure creation. But what I really enjoy in science fiction is the idea that the pre-existing technologies we have, the pre-existing theories we have about things and quantum physics, it's taken from that and kind of, what's the word for it? It's like you suggest ahead of what you think is to come. And I really love that kind of sci-fi. Not like a premonition, exposition almost. Like, I can't remember the right word for it. But there's some hard sci-fi out there. I can't think of the examples right now. That, you know, it's very accurate to what's happened. Actually, there's a graphic novel by Warren Ellis, I think, a Transmetropolitan, that seems eerily like when it was written. It was, you know, this was all sci-fi, but we've got a lot of the stuff that happened in that graphic novel is kind of coming into our reality. So I get really excited when I come across science-based writers that are coming up with these ideas. And Cronenberg, I think, is and really truly great sci-fi writers accurately depict the future. I mean, Alien, there's like those you know, when you can see each other in video screens, like when we saw that in the 80s, we would never have imagined Skype. It's the most normal thing to us now. So things like that are really like, and Blade Runner's got, we still don't have flying cars, but there's a lot of things in Blade Runner that like were so like futuristic, and we now have as just normal life, just mere decades later. So in terms of the Dead Zone, I mean, this is actually Stephen King's story. So, I mean, I can't give Cronenberg full credit.
Not a Stephen King fan.
Yeah, you're not, are you?
No.
So, I'm okay with them. Like,
and I just don't like the look of the film.
Although it is really like...
pardon me, it's Peter Suschitzky's first film with Cronenberg, which is weird, but it's just, yeah, it lacks Howard Shore for me as well.
Yeah, I like Cronenberg's take on it.
Grey looking film.
I watched it, a lot of the reason I watched it was because of Christopher Walken, because I freaking love him, and when I started seeing the movies, I just wanted to see him in everything. So Christopher Walken plays like a psychic who, well, he's in a car accident, goes into a coma, wakes up, his whole world's changed, his partner's moved on, and he happens to be psychic, and he kind of will touch people and know things about the future. So it's basically this ultimate battle of good versus evil, and you've got, is it Martin Sheen or something like that? Martin Sheen plays this charismatic,
which is weird, because I like Martin Sheen. I don't think of him as like a Trumpian kind of figure. But
he totally is. I almost think he did base his character on Trump, because Trump's been a thing for ages, and he's just so slimy and capital. He's like the epitome of like slimy, unethical, capitalist, like greasy politician. He's really, really good in the role, and so it's quite tense in that regard. I do really like it, especially I think I liked it okay when I saw it years and years ago, but then when I rewatched it after Trump was elected, I was like, we should probably pay attention to what this movie is saying. And that's been a fear of mine, I think, ever since I first saw The Dead Zone way back in the day, because I've always thought, what happens if the wrong person gets access to nuclear weapons, which Russia at the moment too. So it's a very relevant film in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's not perfect by any means. So I would probably only give it about a 3.5 out of 5.
I'd probably give it a little less than The Brood.
Yeah, that would make sense for you.
But, so yeah.
About a 5 out of 5 hearts. I mean, like, you know, I like it a bit more. But yeah.
I mean, I'll definitely watch it again. It's a curiosity for me. Like, just because it doesn't have the same ingredients.
I still think it's a cool movie. Yeah.
So next up is The Fly, but before we get to that, have you seen this amazing t-shirt that I'm wearing? Have a look at all those videotapes there. They're all Cronenberg videotapes. Spines.
The rustling is because we have newspapers underneath us, because Nick is also an artist, and there's also like so many paint things and newspapers over there, so I try to like hide them a bit, but the crunching and the crackling will be the newspaper, because we don't want to get paint on the carpet. But the t-shirt is unbelievably gorgeous. So
The Fly, this is an amazing film.
I showed my 18-year-old that quite recently, and he was just like, this is so gross and amazing. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't show it to you earlier.
There's something about it that I sort of see as a bit separate from his other films, because it's even more of a genre film. It's almost more of a blockbuster.
Yeah, it totally is. That's what it is.
It's like the closest he has ever gone to making a blockbuster film. In fact, when it came out in the movies, it was double billed with Aliens, because Aliens had only come out like a month before that, or a few weeks before that. So imagine how cool. I'm so jealous of the people who got to go to those double features. Yeah. Damn. I did actually see The Fly on the big screen in Auckland. I saw it at Rialto. So jealous. But I'm sure we'll get to see it again. It's the kind of film that, you know, it's a real popcorn movie. It's his most popcorn. It's just the most beautifully grotesque thing ever. I love it. I love. Oh my gosh. Just what was and it's his most sort of humorous film. Was Jeff Goldblum. He was not really a non-actor then, was he? No. He'd been. Did They Live or something like that? What is it? It made him more famous, definitely. Yeah. But no, he had small roles in lots of films before that. Like he was. Yeah, I've seen him when he's quite young in films. The Fly made him though. Yeah, it was like, and Gina Davis. They were going out at the time. As well, so they were a cute sort of couple. They're the most cutest couple. They're both tall and kind of weird, lanky and awkward, and just gorgeous in their own ways. So yeah, they would have been. So this is a remake of a black and white film called The Fly, and which obviously Jeff Goldblum loved so much that after they made the Cronenberg Fly, he wrote a letter to Vincent Price, who was in the original, and sort of said, I hope you like our version of it. And Vincent Price went along to see it. And he liked it, especially the first half. But he sort of, after halfway through, he kind of said he ended up saying something like, "I think they went a little too far."
Oh, how gentlemanly of him to say.
Yes,
Scared his little pants.
Mm.
The Fly 2 is really cool as well. You should totally check that out. I love it. It's very sad, actually.
I like it.
It's great.
It's like, if you like practical effects, you'll love it.
It's so cool.
It's got maybe the saddest scene ever with an animal being killed.
Oh, so sad, so gross.
Actually,
so sad.
Panos Cosmatos, who did Mandy, he loves that scene, and he quite often talks about The Fly 2 as being an influence on Mandy. And did you know with The Fly, Michael Keaton was offered the role.
Huh.
But he
would not have worked.
It would have been very different, because it wouldn't have had that same kind of humour. But
where's the glitter on? So you nail polish, because you use nail polish in your paintings.
Yeah, and John Getz is also very memorable in this film as a character named Stathis Borans.
Yes.
Who sort of runs the molecular, whatever it's called.
There's a copy of a Carl Sagan book in his office, so I was like, yeah!
No, he's cool. He's very sleazy and gross. He's the kind of ex-boyfriend that just breaks into her apartment and he'll be having a shower.
My son was like, what is that guy doing? I'm like, that's pretty...
Stathis Borans.
That's Stathis, he's just such a creep. But he, he kind of does try to help towards the end. His arc is a little bit interesting. He's not totally static as a character.
He's a complex character.
He is more complex than you'd think.
And he comes back in the second Fly with a pretty cool little cameo. He does sort of steal the show in his own way. Yeah,
he really holds his own and some. So yeah.
And there are some dangerous baboons in this film as well.
But the baboon really liked Jeff Goldblum. Really liked him, and the trainer was really surprised because, the baboon didn't like anyone. Jumping on him, and they have these cuddles, and I'm like, that's a freaking baboon. Baboons are really unpredictable, and they're really strong, and they're really violent, but they have this adorable relationship, and it kind of blew my mind.
Do you remember The Omen? And there's a scene where they're at the zoo, got in a car, and all these baboons are jumping in the car or jumping around.
Baboons are scary, man. They will tear you apart.
Apparently, was it Lee Remick or the woman in the car, the mother? She got cornered by this baboon, and she was kind of chased into this thing, and it's quite a well-known sort of piece of trivia that she was baboons were trying to. I guess they have sort of male-female dynamics. No, it was trying to show. I think it was trying to show off to her, maybe this male.
Or intimidate her, or kill her, or mate with her.
Maybe
baboons are not to be messed with, so it's kind of amazing. I've never seen anybody interact with a baboon like that before.
Cronenberg says they were the most dangerous thing in the film, and his quote actually was, "They're very volatile. There's no such thing as a tame baboon."
No, they're not. You can't tame a baboon, so that's a really interesting part of the film.
And there are some really interesting deleted scenes that didn't find it into the film with baboons as well. There's a scene where they put a cat and a baboon through the pod thing, and it comes out as this fucked up
I want to see that
thing. And then there's a scene with him the thing comes out and Jeff Goldblum has to kill it, so he bashes it over the head with this big metal pole or something, and it's pretty disgusting, but it's on YouTube. So. So cool. There's lots of, there's quite a few.
The more gore and practical effects, the better.
Speaking of which, Chris Wallace, his name is the first thing that comes up after when the film finishes in the credits, and he won an Oscar for his makeup effects in the film.
Yes, damn straight.
He should have. I mean, they were so amazing, beautiful in their own way. Such
a cool story. Scientist tries to, have these teleportation pods. Things go awry. It's so good. It's so good. It's absolutely iconic. I love that movie so much.
And so this is probably around the time, I think, that Scorsese wanted to meet with Cronenberg. And when they did, he said that Cronenberg looked like a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon.
Actually, kind of does.
Especially around that time, he did as well.
Ooh, yeah, that's actually quite a good comparison.
And that comparison prompted Cronenberg to play a surgeon in The Fly. He's the one that, in that dream sequence, that delivers the baby.
That's so cool!
So thank you, Scorsese.
Thank you, Scorsese.
Yes.
So should we rate it and then wrap this one up and get on to the next one?
Yes, definitely.
What are we going to give it?
I would give this probably like 4.5.
Me too, 4.5. We're totally united on that. So that is a 9 out of 10 hearts.
Or maybe a 4.3 or something. Just a bit less than Crimes of the Future. I mean, but it's a pretty perfect film.
It is so much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a bit squeamish, you'll probably struggle. But it's so good. And yeah, don't be scared.
I was going to say too, again with literary references, there's some references to Kafka as well, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course.
With Metamorphosis. But there are actually some not the obvious sort of things, but like there's some, is it insect politics? I can't remember.
Yes, they do. I think they do mention that actually.
Yeah. And there's also an Alexander Pope reference in it, who's a sort of a poet, Shakespearean style poet. And you know the Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid.
I was gonna finish with that. Yeah.
That was actually thought up by Mel Brooks, who was a producer on the film.
Huh.
He didn't want his name in the credits because he's quite a humble sort of guy, and he didn't want people to see that a comedian had his. He wanted people to be scared by it, and he did anything he could to not.
It's such a classic line. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Yeah,
it is
great.
Such a classic line, and it comes from The Fly.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now you know.
And also, it's kind of important to say that there was a lot of critics said that this was a cultural metaphor for AIDS, which was a big thing at the time when it came out. But Cronenberg said he found that interesting, but he said no, like he thought of it as a metaphor for disease, not AIDS. Like he wasn't specifying it like that.
Or, you know, man trying to mess with godlike powers gets punished for that, even though he's a devout atheist, so, you know. But, you know, it's the idea of, like, it's the Tower of Babel. You build it too high, God gets angry and chucks you down. You're not supposed to reach too high as humanity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And, you know, you do know this, Cronenberg was in pre-production for Total Recall around this time.
What the... Verhoeven is the only other director, I think, that could have pulled it off.
Yeah,
but it would have been cool to see a Cronenberg Total Recall. Hey, can you imagine? That would have been pretty cool.
We should come back for our third video, though.
3.
Because we're about going to run out of time.
We're going to run out of time. We'll do the next one now.
So we'll come back for Dead Ringers soon.
See you soon for Dead Ringers.
Long live the new flesh.
Bye.